with authority. So, thank you very much. We'll have to crowd in.
Crowd in. This one, we can probably finish this in a week.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't know you're here to volunteer to start work. Thanks. We'll get it going because I know all the box lunches I promised you to get you here was just a ruse. And we're actually have cake and coffee in the Riverside room after we're done here. And so I want to thank you all for coming. Just the size of this crowd is really indicative of that this is not just a library project, but it's really a community project. And you know, that's what Beloit's all about. It's a scrappy, underdog kind of attitude. It always asks itself, if not us, who? And it has shown that through the physical capital, the renovation of the city's physical capital over the last 30 years. If you go along the riverfront, you go downtown, you look at the businesses that just have sprung up here. Not magically, but through a lot of hard work. Now there seems to be a second wave of this renaissance that looks at the human capital. Again, if not us, who? And we've seen this recently. We see it with the Career Tech Ed program over at the high school, on the high school campus. We saw it last week with the opening of Career Tech over on the Hendricks Career Tech over on the Ironworks campus. And now we see that here at the library with the Blender. And I would expand on that even further by saying, because of the library's relationships with community action and the things that are happening there, with the Blackhawk Technical College and the things that are happening there, and programs that we're working with them on and expanding on, I would call this the Eclipse Center campus, and that there's a lot of exciting things happening here as well. People have asked, is this the Blender Cafe, Blackhawk Technical College, the high school, all these partnerships. The Blender is going to be a feeder system. The human capital element is going to be a feeder system for the hospitality program at the high school. And then we hope what they learn here while at the Blender, they can take on if they choose and go to Blackhawk Technical College and the culinary arts program. Or they go in, and then from there go into business in the food industry. Or maybe they don't go into the food industry and they take the skills and the experiences that they've learned here at the Blender, the responsibilities, the attitudes, the behaviors, and they take that into any area of work that they choose to go into. People have asked if this is a program or is it a business? And we've said it's both, because the business has to succeed in order for the program to succeed. We can't just run it and pay the bills on good intentions. We really have to make sure that the business part of it succeeds. Success ultimately is going to be if people come into the Blender and just leave saying they had an amazing dining experience and they don't know anything about the story that all of you know about if you've read in the paper that you're going to learn today. So that to me, that is really what success is going to be. But let's hear about the story now, and I would like to introduce Tony Capozziello. He is over at Beloit Memorial High School, and he was integral to this from the beginning as heading up the hospitality program, teaching the kids that feeder system. And one last word before how I met Tony. Missy Henderson, I know she's over here, there she is. When we first started talking about a cafe here, Missy immediately grabbed me and said, you got to come over to the hospitality program and meet Tony Capozziello. And once I did, we knew the direction that this was going to head. We didn't know it was going to end up quite like this, and with all the partnerships, but we knew that it had to be a partnership with the high school and the library, and that just made sense from both of our missions. So I'll let Tony take it from there.
So this is actually the culmination of 2 almost years of planning and hard work. It's been great working with Nick and Jim Egan and Kerry on the project and other partners. I do owe a lot to Missy for having been a very engaged board member and knowing my background. I had 20 years in the restaurant business before I became a teacher. And when somebody presents an opportunity like this to put together some cool things for our kids and kind of renew my old entrepreneurial spirit, I really had a hard time saying no. And I think in the end, this will have a very long-lasting impact on the kids, which is ultimately what I like to do things for. as Nick said, we hope that everybody has just the most wonderful experiences in the cafe, but as you also know, there are growing pains with the business. So we ask for your patience and your input every step of the way. We're starting with around 15 students in our first round, and we're going to see how that schedules out. We're going to incorporate them during the school day, after school, weekends, and depending on the business volume and availability of the kids, that all might change in 2 seconds. So we're just going to take it one step at a time, and it gives me more comfort than I could possibly tell you, knowing that a former student of mine, Angie, is taking over, sort of passing the torch to her. She was my student, graduated in 2010, and she has just done amazing things in her own professional life after high school and college. And her story, which some of you have read and you'll get to know as time goes on, is amazing in and of itself. But she is perfect for this, absolutely perfect for this. She's embedded in the community. She's good with the kids. She's can read my mind, which helps a lot, because my mind's all over the place. I can never quite be in one place for more than 2 seconds. So we've already had a lot of continuity. We've made a lot of strides just from the day she was hired, and I appreciate that lead time too. So, thanks very much.
So the next chapter or part of this story, we're in a library, we got to stick with the metaphor here, right? So the next chapter in this story was taking the idea, the vision, and once we had the high school and that part figured out, the next thing was to turn to the city, and our new city manager at that time, Lori Luther, and say, Lori, here's the idea. Here's what we're going to do. We just need some money, and for the capital to be able to kick this off. And we didn't look to the city to say that the city had to pay for everything. We knew that wasn't possible. That's just not possible. But it was a key next step in moving the project along. So, Lori Luther.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. This is really an exciting day as we begin the process of getting construction underway to have the blender open. I can tell you that this is really an exciting public-private partnership. There's been private fundraising. We have our partners with the school district and with Kerry, and we're so grateful for that. I've made it no secret that the library is my favorite city facility. I'm sorry to all the other spaces, but this started when I was very young. And when I was a very, very young person, I kind of grew up in our local library. And I wish I had patented the idea, but it always seemed a little strange to me that there weren't more comfy spots to sit, and I couldn't bring my snacks with me, and I just wasn't really supportive of those rules. If I had thought that through a bit, maybe Barnes & Noble could have been a Luther sort of a thing, but needless to say, I think the more welcoming and open that we can make our libraries, the more spaces we have for the public to enjoy, the better for our entire community. So, with Nick's creativity and leadership, we were able to bring this to this point in time and see it move forward. So thank you to all of our partners. Thank you for being here, and I wholeheartedly look forward to the grand opening.
So, and then, of course, the support of the City Council, and we have members here, Sheila Mark and others that were on and are on, and that was absolutely critical as well. So now that we got to that, we got the feeder system, the students, and the human capital element. We got part of our money. Now we had to start doing some fundraising, and so one of the Kerry ingredients. I had known Jim Egan prior to this project, and so one day I asked him to come over and take a look at the meeting room and see if they wanted to use that for some of their training. So I also took that opportunity to mention the blender and what we were doing there. And he grabbed onto that and he said, this is exactly what we've been looking to do. Get our food scientists out into the community for programming, get Kerry out into the community, let people know what Kerry is doing. So I think it was probably the next morning. I met him at Bagels and More. There was someone else he was meeting with. I went up and I said, hey, tell me you got some money left after this guy. And so we sat down and he said, what do you need? And we were looking at the equipment as a perfect way of defining Kerry's contribution, not just money, but to cover the equipment that is so critical to it. Jimmy Egan.
I stand here before you, one of 750 people that are up on the hill, working every day to delight and nourish you and consumers around the world. So we are a global company, and what we like to do is bring great taste and nutrition together. And so that is our call. That is what we do. And so when Nick and Tony sat down and said to me, listen, we're thinking about doing something like this at the Blender here in town, I didn't have to think twice. I brought it to the organization, I brought it to the executive group, and they immediately said, absolutely. There's reasons why we signed up for this. Now, granted, we are your community partner, right? We're part of this community. We live here, we work here, and we sponsor a lot of events. This particular event is close to our home, our house. What is it? Our heart. So, and our stomachs. And our stomachs. And so, one of the things that we are so proud of is being a part of Wisconsin. Not just being a part of Beloit, being a part of Wisconsin. Wisconsin has this rich heritage in food and in food production. And so, if we can keep the energy going, if we can spark an idea in the young kids about helping delight and nourish people through food service, and we can extend our knowledge of that to them to make naturally healthy food from food for food. That's what Kerry's all about, and we wanted to be a part of that. So I do want to thank Nick for bringing us on board. I want to thank Tony and Angela from the school's perspective, because that's the future workforce in food production and food manufacturing and food service. I want to thank Lori and the city. I want to thank the council, the board members of the library. I want to thank all of you for being here today for what is the beginning of the next step in the Blender Cafe. So thank you very much.
So then with Kerry as that just critical lead donation, we were able to turn around and look at some of the other organizations, but individuals. And so I wanted to just, I'll probably, if I forget someone, forgive me, but I probably can't do worse than the Oscars last night. The next, after Kerry, we went out and we started meeting with individuals, and we said, we're going to stay at the $10,000 level. We're going to stay at the $10,000 level. We think this is a project that is going to align with many, many giving, the reasons people want to give and the kind of projects they're looking for. And so in particular, I want to say Bill and Missy Henderson, Peter and Nancy Halverson, who are both of those, John Watrous and Natalie Gummer, and I saw John here, Jim and Joyce Haight, Steve and Heidi Eldred, Dave and Judy Criswell, Tom and Marlene Holmes, Larry and Karen Arft, Charles and Prudy Harker, Jeff and Judy Adams, and John and Becky Wong. All step forward with each with a $10,000 check. Starbucks has been in this all along. They donated all the furniture that's in there. I'm driving a U-Haul up to Kenosha on Wednesday night and picking up more furniture. And the Lions came on and they said they're going to take the furniture, they're going to strip it down and get it fixed up. It's incredible. Flying Pig donated a sandwich prep case. So people ask me, what are the businesses downtown? They think it's great. I saw Dave this morning at Bagels in the morning. He said, Nick. He came out. I was leaving, and he came running out in the parking lot and said, hey, I ran the numbers. I don't know how he got the numbers, but I ran your numbers, and I think this is going to be really successful. I think it's going to be really successful. And more businesses that are successful in Beloit helps everyone. So I thought that was just fabulous. And after we did the Library Foundation, $10,000, the Friends at Beloit Fable, $10,000. We have many of those members here, and the Rotary Club of Beloit. Thanks, Bill, for your leadership on that. Also $10,000 donorship. Then, after we had all that, that's when we turned and said, okay, there's another group in Beloit that we know is doing this in many different areas. And so that's when I started working with Lisa Furseth of the Hendricks Family Foundation, and we have Kim Hendricks here as well. We went and approached them and said, we've got all this other support. You are the last piece to the puzzle. and we asked for operational costs to get us up and running. So when we start even. We don't start in debt. And Hendricks Family Foundation said, that sounds good. We'll give you $80,000. Come back for another 20 if you need it, and you can prove that you're actually going to be doing the right things with it. And we said that's exactly what we want to hear. So thank you very much. So now the last piece is we started hiring. We needed to hire a cafe manager. I got asked a lot of questions. You know, who the heck do you think you are running a cafe? You're a librarian. So I knew we had to hire someone to come in and do it. And we put it out, but as Tony already alluded to, we found the absolutely perfect person. The story of this project has been incredible from the beginning, and this is just the topping on it. And I want to introduce Angela Sanchez. She's our new cafe manager. I've been feeling a little separation anxiety as she starts to grab things and say, I got that covered. No, wait, you need me. Angela Sanchez.
Everybody makes me sound so good. I hope I don't botch it, guys. I'm Angela. Everyone just calls me Angie. I was born and raised here in Beloit. My parents own Salvador's right around the corner, so I've been there for 14 years. I tell everyone, if you haven't been there, you better get over there. I graduated from Beloit Memorial High School in 2010, and like Mr. C said, he's been stuck with me since freshman year. And I always tell everybody, if it wasn't for Mr. C, I wouldn't have done half the things that I did. Mr. C is the one that used to take my cell phone away freshman year. And it's in my pocket now, so you can't take it. But we used to fight up sometimes. But junior year, I had him for the hospitality courses, and I ended up with him again in co-op for senior year. And thanks to him, I ended up going to the University of Wisconsin-Stout to study hospitality management, and I ended up with a minor in business. And from college, I went, and I've been living, I moved now. I was living in Wisconsin Dells, and I was a food and beverage manager at the Wilderness Hotel and Golf Resort. So if you haven't been there, if you've heard of it, you know Wilderness is very, very big. And I was directly in charge of running the new outlet they had, which was the Klondike Boardwalk. They had 3 outlets in one. It was the Klondike Pizza Kitchen, which is the resort's only food delivery. And then we had Klondike Cakes Libation, so full service bar, and then Yukon Yogurt was their frozen yogurt shop. And then when Eric decided that, okay, she knows what she's doing, we're just going to throw her on everywhere else. So you're going to be in charge of running all the outlets on the resort territory. So I was constantly on the run all the time, and it would be cool when I would see my Fitbit and said, oh, you did 11 miles today. You did it, okay. About the end of July, I ended up moving back home because I wanted to help my parents at the restaurant again. So I was cooking on the line with my dad, and then I was serving tables in the front. So that's what I've done since I was little. When I was 10 and I couldn't see the register and I had my own step stool. So naturally, hospitality's kind of been in my blood. So I told Mr. C when I finally told him I was back in Beloit, like, hey, I think I want to work at BLM. I want to work with students at the Beloit Learning Academy, because I was like, if I can help somebody like you helped me, then I did something right. Like, I want to be somebody's Mr. C. He's like, if you want to do that, he's like, that sounds great, but you should look into this opportunity. And that's when the blender came into my life, and this is where I am now. I appreciate the opportunity, and I just really hope I don't mess it up, because no pressure, right? But I would do this for me, and I would show Mr. C, like, hey, you're forever stuck with me forever and ever. And I learned something from you, and then, my parents, if it wasn't for them, my dad came to this country with nothing. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to go to college or anything like that either. So I'm doing this for all around Beloit to be a better place. So I appreciate that.
So she's off and running with it. You can see there's a big success bubble above her head. I have to remind her right now, you still report to me, though. So lastly, with the library board, 2 years ago, as Tony said, we brought this vision forward, 3 phases. This is the first phase, and we're finishing it. If you want to know about 2 and 3, you can ask me afterwards. But this is the first phase, and we're finishing it. Thank you to the library board. And then library staff. So none of this would be happening if we didn't have such great library staff. Dennis Murphy wrote an article or a letter to the editor in the newspaper that was in there a few days ago, and he said, Beloit's got a lot of assets, but the library is one of its most important, and the staff are fabulous. So thanks to the library staff for all their help. So we're not physically breaking ground, so we had to think of something else. We toyed with throwing paint, and then Andrea's going to lead us through the final phase here, and then we have cake and coffee and that back in the Riverside room.
Don't say cake yet, they're going to run away.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Levine, and I'm the Outreach and Communications Coordinator here at the library. It's been my pleasure to be part of this amazing project. And so one of the things that I did for this project was working with a company to design a logo. And they came to us with 10 different designs for a logo, and I put it out to a bunch of different people, staff, and got everyone's feedback. And we had one logo that just rose to the top that everybody really loved. Angie sent it over to the students in the hospitality program and had them take a survey and decide which one they liked. And they voted for the same logo overwhelmingly. So it's, okay, hands down, this is the logo we're going with. So I'm really pleased to be able to unveil that logo today. And then we have a big poster with the logo on it that we want all of the donors and partners to sign. So we have just kind of a moment in time of everybody who came together to make this project happen. So I'm going to unveil the logo. I encourage you all to come a little closer to see it or to file past after we finish the speaking. But then I also encourage the donors and the partners to come up after. If you have to leave right away, come up after to sign. Otherwise, we'll bring the poster into the Riverside room and you can sign at that time. Thank you.
Drum roll.
Drum roll.
So thank you very much. I'll be in here if you wanted me to tell you all about how the space is going to be laid out in here. Otherwise, go enjoy yourself with some coffee and cake. Thank you very much.
No, you're fine.
Oh, yeah, the corridor. And then so
Yes. Oops, Pam's on the prowl.